right to the bottom line of what the last year meant for the organization financially. It meant that we had an increase in unrestricted net assets of a little over $192,000. That's good news. That's a much better performance than we've had in recent years, which have tended to be slightly on the positive or negative side on changes in net assets. So at the same time that we were able to realize that positive change in net assets, we were also able to pay down about $128,000 of our accounts payable. We were also able to do better on our accounts receivable. And for any organization, those are standards that you generally look for in terms of the management and operation and cash flow for the organization going forward. So, that's the good news. The bad news is a lot of that was done with some extraordinary methods that we can't expect to continue. For one thing, because we had to tamp down so much on operational expenses, the professional staff for the USCF had to take significant furlough last year, which is a direct reduction in their salaries and wages. And quite frankly, we haven't increased those wages in over a decade in many instances. And that's simply not a kind of model for organizational growth and excellence that we can expect to maintain going forward. So if we as an organization are going to provide the level of services that are going to keep our current memberships and grow our membership base so that we can grow top line revenue, so you make the kinds of investments that further the USCF mission, we've got to be able to attract and retain our staff. So that's an area where we're simply going to have to do a better job going forward. We also continue to have erosion in key membership categories, particularly around adult members. And there isn't anything in the current model that suggests that's going to change. Now, some of the things that Bill touched upon are what we hope are going to be opportunities to change that curve. And quite frankly, we as an organization are going to have to, unless we're going to become a substantially different organization than what most of us have been accustomed to the USCF being. So from that perspective, we as an executive board met for a couple of days in St. Louis at our prior to our last executive board meeting in April, and put together a budget. The proposed budget for next year is also outside on the table if anybody's interested, and is, in our estimation, a way of continuing to make progress on the structural issues facing the USCF, to work to have sufficient revenue to maintain and build on our professional staff and the services they provide, and also look to build on the progress that was made this year. Even in the budget as we are going to present it to you, which I will be the first to admit requires some moderate dues increases in categories. Even with that budget, we will be on a path, unless we have a substantial improvement in our performance, to finish paying out the accounts payable, which are mostly a result of the lawsuits from prior years, for 2 to 3 years. So this organization is still going to be on a diet as it relates to its finances and its ability to fund its commitment and further its mission for a while. And to me, that's frustrating, because there are things that we should do as an organization that we simply aren't necessarily in the position to do. We've done a good job of finding some chess patrons who've been able to support key aspects of what the organization exists to do, like funding and putting on outstanding, world-class U.S. championships, and we're grateful to those individuals and what they've meant to U.S. chess. But at the same time, we're not able to assist our international players when they're qualifying for world championships. We aren't able to provide what many of us think are the resources that they should have for things like chess Olympiads either. So if we are going to do those things, we're going to have to grow top line revenue, and to be able to do that, we're going to have to get our finances in a position where we are able, as an organization, to make commitments and sustain those kinds of commitments. Because we've made the commitments at many times in the past. It's been the sustaining that we've had problems with. So as we look at, as I kind of segue into the budget, both both last year's budget and this year's budget, I would make a couple of comments. First of all, in the past few years, we've done I would say an excellent job of predicting our revenues. One of the points that I made in the Finance Committee meeting, and I do revenue estimating for a living, so I have a little bit of knowledge about this area. Our largest single revenue cohort is about 1.6 million as it relates to regular memberships. And last year, we came within $2,000 of hitting the budgeted number on that revenue cohort. And that's phenomenal, it's extraordinary. You aren't going to find anybody that does it any better. And that's mostly the result of Joe Nanda's work in this area. He has tracked these numbers continually, practically daily, I think, maybe by the hour. I don't think Joe really sleeps much or has much of a life other than doing the stuff that he's been doing for the USCF for several years. And so we have been able to, as a board, develop budgets around realistic revenue estimates that, really from any standard are exceptional. So that has been helpful for us as an organization. And as a board, we have worked very hard to figure out on a line-by-line item within the budget what we really believe expenses and revenues are going to be, not what we just hope they're going to be. And that's more or less the budget that we put in front of you. There are, I guarantee you, we will not get any of those numbers exactly, and there are legitimate disagreements on what some of them will be. When I was doing revenue estimating for the state of Iowa, my counterpart for the legislature, when we'd have disagreements, his standard response would be, well, pick one number or the other because they're both going to be wrong. And that, quite frankly, is what a budget is. It's an estimation of what we think it's going to be for the year coming, in the next year. So this budget, as presented, leaves a modest unreserved fund balance. Those of you who have heard me talk about this before, I believe that an organization generally should have a fund balance, an unreserved fund balance of somewhere between 3 and 5%. I'd much prefer it be on the high end of that. We're barely at the low end. So to be able to deal with what are going to be those changes from year to year, you really need a little bit more than that. So what this budget includes is some increase in our investment in our office staff personnel. It includes a 3% across the board increase in wages and compensation, which, as I said, it's been over 10 years since many of these individuals have had that. It includes at least an additional investment in FTE for many of the kinds of efforts that Bill has been talking about. And then, of course, we have to pay for that. And that's where there are changes in dues structure, which are in ADM 1125, which will be amended, an amendment that I filed, which relates to some agreements that have been reached, particularly with the Scholastic Council. We had some concerns about some aspects of the dues increases, and we'll talk about that. The dues increases that we include for this current fiscal year would raise about an additional $39,000. Our estimates right now, and they are estimates because we just haven't had time to analyze them carefully since yesterday's Finance Committee meeting, are that we will reduce that $39,000 by about $8,000 because of the amendment that I will file. Now, realize that these are to go into place on January 1 of 2012, which means they only benefit it's only partial benefit for this current fiscal year, which ends on May 31st. So there will be larger benefit going forward. And we have factored in some of what will happen anytime that you raise costs of something. There will be individuals that will decide that it's no longer worth their while to participate, and that's always a concern. What we've sought to do is moderate that by not raising dues in what we have determined through our research on past dues increases to be price-sensitive categories, and to focus the increases on areas that are less price-sensitive. That creates some questions around equity, and those issues were raised in the Finance Committee meeting. When we discuss the ADM, I'll talk about the results of some straw polls that we took at the Finance, I shouldn't say committee, at the Finance workshop yesterday. That's kind of where we see the organization coming with the changes that would be coming from the budget for the current year. Normally, at this time, when we conclude, we would take up the budget. I'm going to ask that we defer it until we deal with ADM 1125, because it has a substantial impact on what the budget would look like. In closing, you know, I've enjoyed, yeah, I guess I've enjoyed the 4 years as Vice President of Finance sometimes. And I will probably enjoy it even more when Ellen Priest is up here doing this next year. I'll be back in the cheap seats and listening to him talk about the budget. Of course, it won't be his budget, it'll be mine. So whatever the results are next year, right, he can take credit for the great job of managing it he did if it turns out well, and he can blame me for it if it doesn't turn out so well. And I'll look forward to that conversation. But, you know, really, I think what we all as delegates have to understand is, well, we had a pretty good year last year. We need to have successive pretty good years, put ourselves into a reasonable financial shape for the organization. And that's all of our challenge. And I look forward to assisting with that in the following years.
How much is our revenue depressed by the accounts payable we have to pay off for the lawsuits? How much will that increase our bottom line once we're past this?
Well, last year we paid about $125,000 off of it, or I think $128,000. So, yeah, and you know, we also have some interest costs associated with it. If you look at the budget, because we were able to pay down some of that accounts payable, we I think save about $12,000. I don't have it right in front of me, but there is a savings associated with less interest costs too. So sure, we can get past these next 2 or 3 years, we will be in a better financial position.
Have you thought about,
Isn't that 120,000 reduction in payables actually in the bottom line? Because it was expensed in an earlier year, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's an impact on cash flow. It's already been factored in the loss in prior years.
have you thought about asking AIG to create a derivative insuring us against losses? I think maybe Goldman Sachs has bundled that with some others involving Warren Jeffs and Casey Anthony and give it to a bond rating. We'd be in great shape.
There is, I mean, one of the challenges is we're still dealing with a lawsuit, and there was about $17,000 spent in the last fiscal year. The bottom line would have been improved a little bit more. We can get out from under some of these legal challenge issues.
Okay, we're going to defer approving the budget to the area of ADM 1125. So that we're at the report of Director of Publications, Dan Lucas.
Okay, so imagine at some point in the near future that you power up your iPad or some other mobile device, smartphone, something of that nature, and you load in the latest issue of Just Like magazine, say the U.S. Championship issue. You start playing through analysis of games, you look at multimedia presentations, pictures of the event, you look at video with the interviews with the winner of the event. You're having fun with that, you realize you have to get to an appointment across town. You power down, drive across town, go into a Starbucks, power it up again, and the GPS device in your device recognizes that you've changed location, and an ad pops up on the side of your screen telling you that there is a chess club nearby that has Friday night quads that night. You think that's great, you make note of it, you plan to attend that night. You power up the Just Like magazine again, and you notice that since you've been online, that the champion who had analyzed the game you were looking at has updated his analysis and even given some video commentary on it. You click on that Queen's Gambit Blind game, and an ad shows up on the right side of the screen for USCF sales with a list of their Queen's Gambit fine books. Now, I'm not making a promise to you that this is what we are working on. I'm just saying this is the kind of apps and the kind of possibilities that are out there. And as we try to keep Chess Life magazine and Chess Life for Kids relevant in this digital age, Bill and I have been talking about various strategic ideas for incorporating these kind of apps and this kind of digital media into what Chess Life magazine is. Now, we've not made any decisions at this point. We're just at the point of thinking about it, trying to figure out what the right course is to take. Where should the resources be? Should we even be devoting resources to this? And I want to just share some stats that I've garnered about the magazine industry in general and iPad apps that other magazines have tried to show what has kind of informed our thinking. Now, in 2010, that was the year the iPad was introduced. It was also supposed to be the year everything changes with the magazine industry. That print, it was the latest incarnation of print is dead. And in 2009, that really looked like it was a real possibility. Almost 600 magazines folded in 2009. However, oddly enough, in 2010, the year of the iPad, things settled a little bit better. There were almost 200 magazines started in 2010, and only about 180 folded last year. So things started to balance out even as this new digital media revolution was taking place. Some magazines that have much more resources than the US Chess Federation have, invested heavily in iPad apps to be early adopters of it. Wired magazine was one in particular that I think is very interesting because if anybody's going to be using iPad apps for reading their magazines online, I think it's going to be readers of Wired magazine, which is a magazine, if you don't know, about science, technology, and the web and the online world. They found that in the month that they introduced their app, that almost 105,000 people downloaded that app and downloaded that issue of the magazine on it. It was, that represented a significant chunk of their newsstand sales. I think it was about almost 12%. But just a few short months later, that number had dropped down to 30,000 or so were using it. So this is a magazine that is, has a built-in audience for their apps, and they really could not sustain the interest. And across the magazine industry in general, they are finding that about 1% to 2% of newsstand sales for magazines like People and Time and Newsweek are being used for their iPad app. There's other issues that we in the magazine industry are wrestling with as we try to embrace this brave new world. For example, just one typical one is, how do you pay your writers and photographers? Right now, it's very easy for me. I pay my writers by the word. I pay my photographers by the size of the photos we use in the magazine. Well, if we're also doing an iPad app, and we're having another 100 photos from the U.S. Open in our article online, and we have additional material that wasn't in the printed article, how are we paying the writers and photographers for that? It's something that the industry as a whole has not worked out. I certainly haven't worked out. It's something we're just trying to wait and see how that shakes out. So ultimately, though, what does it mean for the U.S. Chess Federation? There's certainly no doubt that we want to have a 360-degree branded approach to the U.S. Chess Federation and our publications. We want to have the print magazine. We want to have the web presence. We want to have the mobile app presence. We want to have social media presence. But again, it's not as simple as just putting it out there. Using Facebook and Twitter, which we already have Facebook and Twitter accounts, and we already have we have Facebook fan groups for Chess Life Online that Jennifer Shahade and myself update, and Twitter that Jennifer Shahade does on occasion. But it's really not as simple as just updating it. To do it well, you really have to have a person who's dedicated to that job. It's not very simple just to write short copy. 140 characters is not an easy way to write effectively. And if we're going to do it and do it correctly, there has to be people on the job, on the USCF payroll, that are dedicated to this particular job. So for the time being, print and web is what's going to dominate our USCF presence. We are already doing a very good job with our Just Life Online and Just Life magazine coverage. We have daily, almost daily news updates on the website. People are trained at this point to go there and look. People, our majority of our membership still wants a print magazine. When the majority of our membership wants a multimedia presence with a mobile app, there is no doubt that we will be there, but we would certainly like to be ahead of that curve. It's something that we should outsource working with a company that knows how to develop and deliver these type of apps, but using our unique knowledge about chess and chess players one with game viewers and the like. So for right now, we're staying with print, staying with web, and we'll be dipping our toe soon into the mobile world and continue this until as we have the money to hire people to do the social media. That will just be working at a very low level. So I'll open it to questions.
Is there a cookie that tracks each regular member's hit on the electronic magazine to determine what percentage of the regular members use the online electronic version?
Do you mean on the website or for a mobile app? On the website, yes. I can't answer it on mobile apps. I assume so.
For a lot using it then? A lot of the regular members using the magazine, viewing the magazine online?
Yeah, for Chess Life magazine, there's about, we're about 16,000, I think, right now, who are, let me see real quickly. Yeah, we're about 16,000 that are online-only members. There's only a small percentage that seem to actually be taking a look and downloading Just Life from that number. Those seem to be members that are more interested in their rating and USCF play. Yes, sir.
Along with the iPad, smartphone,
Right. Yeah. The question was, are we looking at developing past the iPad towards other smartphones? Yes, I don't limit it to the iPad. We have to see what's going to shake out. It seems like it's a VHS versus Betamax situation right now. And I think what we want to do is let it shake out. Let the best, the companies and the magazines that have the resources to develop these apps and get successful with it, and then let's flatter them with all sincerity by copying them mercifully. Yes?
You stated that there were the majority of people that can get Just Life online, don't download the magazine to the home, in their ratings. Let me assure you that a lot of us don't download the magazine because we can't do it. It's extremely difficult for us dinosaurs to get in there and actually do it, because one of the things it requires is some code that's on your magazine label, but if you're not getting the magazine, you don't have the code. So you've got problems right off the bat, and I'm wondering, why can't we just log into USCF ID, download the magazine? Why do I need secret codes and the code rings and all this other bells and whistles?
I'd have to defer that question to our web people.
Dan? You want to finish that first? I've got Just Life.
I don't know if we have somebody who can answer that question about logging to the website or not.
Dan, a question on Just Life for the kids. The covers have been excellent, showing the boys and the girls, and minority groups and everything, really proud. But we have a very serious problem this month. The cover of the August issue of Just Life for Kids is found very insulting by teachers. Now, some of the people out here may not have seen it, but covers like that, we just shouldn't have. I give back issues to various schools, and I certainly can't take the August issue.
I'm sorry, can you describe how it's insulting to teachers, please?
It shows a teacher with a big long stick and 3 pawns that look like kids that are scared to death. And though people may laugh at this sort of thing, teachers find it insulting. Every teacher that has seen it or talked to me about it, I didn't, I laughed at it when I saw it, and I've been teaching for 50 years, but I teach preschool and graduate school. But teachers in the elementary school found it extremely insulting. They came to me, I wasn't aware that it was insulting, and I thought I should pass that on. We've got to be
Look
very
in the
careful.
eye and tell them to lighten up.
No, seriously.
I'm serious too. Look them in the eye and tell them to lighten up.
No, they're very upset about it. I think extremely upset. And I'd like to leave copies in the libraries at the schools if I could, the copies I have. And there's no way. I mean, it's 100%. If there were some that, as he said, just tell them no, these are people that care about their profession, and it's not a good image of teachers. It really was found very insulting, and I thought that our image, we want to have a good image out there, and that's not going to be a good image to bring kids in. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other comments on the magazines? No? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Next is Harold Winston, report from the chairman of the U.S. Chess Trust. Today
The museum opening, very close. John McCrary and I have been discussing chess history, and it's occurred to us that on those Viking explorations of the ships that went on for days and weeks, to go to Greenland and Finland, they had to do something for recreation, and they must have been playing chess. Actually, this helmet comes at a suggestion from Ralph Bowman. Ralph is upset that I no longer had this bright green jacket I used to wear and take off when we reached a certain goal from the delegates here. So this year I'm doing a helmet. My goal is 3,600 to take it off, and we are so far at 2,700. The trustees have pledged more than that in matching funds. All right, my full report is on page 6 of the delegates' call. I'm just going to hit highlights here. World Chess Hall of Fame and Sidney Simone Museum, as you know, is reopening in St. Louis. The public opening is Friday, September 9th. There also will be a VIP opening the night of September 8th, at which time I will induct our two newest persons in the U.S. Chess Hall of Fame, Grandmasters Boris Gulko and Andy Soltis. And of course, this is in a building right across from the St. Louis Chess Center. This is made possible through the generosity of Rex Singfield and his wife Jean. I was there as recently as July 21st looking things over. And if you're interested, the first floor is going to have a special chess and art exhibit. The second floor will have the Dean collection of chess sets. Those two floors will have rotating exhibits. The third floor will be the Hall of Fame, the plaques, and the memorabilia. The second big event coming up that the Trust is involved in is the second Koltanowski Conference on Chess and Education, put together by Tim Redmond. The University of Texas in Dallas and the Trust are co-sponsors, November 18th to 19th, 2011, and with the K-12 in Dallas at the Hilton Anatole Hotel. We have some more information here if you're interested about what's going on there, and I think some of the people here from Texas Have Edge and Stallings probably has that as well. Third, I want to report the North American Youth, held by Beatrice Marinello, which the Trust supported, drew almost 300 players from the U.S., Mexico, Canada, and the Bahamas. Fourth, I want to acknowledge that Booz Allen Hamilton has continued their very generous sponsorship of the Final Four, and now the Armed Forces Championship as well. Mike Hoffpor of Virginia has been the key person in getting us that sponsorship, and Mike Atkins on the EB was the one who helped make the initial contact. And I want to thank both banks very much. We distributed 180 sets and boards this year, 49 memberships, scholastics and youth. Shane Samoli has just given us a donation of a number of chess clocks we can distribute to schools for next year. We gave $10,000 to the World Youth, which has been one of the projects we've continually supported. And as I think you've read, our players did extremely well there, and the trust is very pleased by their success. The Scholar Chess Player Program continues. We were able to continue at a heightened level of $7,500, divided into 5 scholarships. And that's because Sunil Weeramantry and his National Scholastic Chess Foundation have giving $2,500 to support the $5,000 from the trust. The Denker Tournament of High School Champions has been very dear to our heart. I'm happy to report that this year they had 50 players, one of their highest ever. And the new tournament, the K-8, the Barber Invitational, that the Delegates endorsed last year, was a rousing success with 44 players, both due to the tireless work of Dwayne Barber. We gave our Dondas Award to Rex Singfield for everything he's doing for chess in the museum. But some of you are here. We have a public meeting every year on Thursday from 1 to 3, and everybody's invited to go and ask questions and hear about our finances and other things, because we want to be as open as possible. In closing, just 2 reminders. Please consider remembering the Chess Trust and a will, and you can contact Barbara tomorrow about that. I know Barbara gave envelopes to many of you, and I'll be coming around. I want to acknowledge the other trustees who are present. Would you please stand? Our treasurer, Leroy Dubeck, our secretary, Myron Lieberman, our vice president for scholastics, Sunil Weeramantry, and also Beatrice Marinello. Thank you very much, and please help me get this helmet off my head.
Michael Kordakovsky, FIDE delegate from USCF. Michael Kordakovsky of New York, New Jersey.
Unfortunately, I did not prepare like yeah, so I will not entertain it as Harold did. Last year, it was an exciting year for US Chess on International Arena. Our 2 teams participated in the World Chess Olympiad. Men's team was in top 10, and women's team tied for 3rd and 8th on tiebreak 5th, and qualified for a World Women's Team Championship that is going to be held in December of this year. And top 10 world teams, 5 qualified from Olympiad, 4 continental champions, and host country. It will be round robin tournament in December in Turkey, and the team will represent the United States for the 2nd consecutive World Team Championship. Our men's team did not qualify from Olympiad. However, Continental President appointed our men's team as the best team on the continent, and team successfully played at the World Team Championship that just finished in China and tied for 4th-6th place, with 2 members of the team, Gata Kamsky and Robert Hess, who medaled on individual boards. Also, our youngsters, the World Youth Championship in Greece, showed excellent results. Steven Zerg, 2010 Denver champion, became winner of the most prestigious top section, boys under 18 years old. And he was clear first and won gold medal. And 2 other young players, in section 10, under 10, Jeffrey Xiong from Texas, and section under 12 years old, Caden Trove from Salt Lake City, Utah. They won silver medals. So all these results show that we have already a little, as in other sports, people say long bench, and we have a good group of youngsters who are continuously improve their results. We have Robert Hess, who already on men's team. We have Ray Robson, who currently is playing in India and World Championship, individual World Championship under 20. And we have many more talented kids who definitely soon will challenge our elite players. I would like also to mention good results of our leader, Hikaru Nakamura, who won one of the Grand Slam tournaments of the year in VCON-Z. It was his best career result. And he, after, I think by rating of July 1st, he was the 6th on the rating list, so he's definitely an elite player by the world standard, and hopefully he will improve and will continue his quest for World Championship. Of course, I would love to talk only about successes of our chess players on international arena, but I have to report you also on several items that relates to USCF FIDE relationship, and I will touch several topics on that. If you remember last year, here during Delegates meeting, actually in Irvine, California, there were some bitter discussions and about elections, and you know that there were two contenders. It was a ticket for to re-elect Kirsan Lundinov as FIDE president, and 12th world champion Anatoly Karpov and his ticket were challenging this position, and USCF supported and endorsed Karpov. All of you already know that results of that election. So Kirsan Lundinov won election. He was re-elected with his ticket, and back then, if you remember, USCF joined with other four federations, joined in arbitration in Swiss court, Olympic Sports Tribunal, joined French, German, Swiss, and Ukrainian federations, along with Karpov 2010 campaign about Kirsan's legitimacy to be nominated by Russian Chess Federation. So court actually ruled that it is important to know for everyone that any member country in FIDE can endorse any individual who would like to become president of this organization. So considering that FIDE has its slogan, Gens Una Sumas, and considering that all member federations become one of, if FIDE it's a paternal governing body, and any federation that joins FIDE actually can endorse any member, even if it's from other federation, it doesn't matter. But, and therefore, this arbitration was all, I would say, maybe not instill me, but in favor of Kirsan Ilginov, and he was able to proceed with his ticket. Upon our arrival to FIDE Congress and Olympia that took place in Russia, FIDE Treasurer Nigel Freeman approached me and then Ruth Herring with a blunt statement that FIDE is willing to, or will, challenge not countersuit, but recovery of funds that FIDE spent for this arbitration. However, after conclusion of the Congress, Kirsan Ilginov met with Anatoly Karpov and promised him that this nothing will happen and no countersuits or recovery will take place. He approached me, and then later, after that, Ruth Herring had separate conversation with him, and he wanted to have good relations with USCF, to meet with USCF board, and to come to the United States. I also told him that we are not hostile to FIDE, and we would like to be partners with FIDE, but his treasurer actually threatened us that it would be countersued. I missed one item. CAS, it's arbitration Olympic Sports Tribunal, they awarded 35,000 Swiss francs to FIDE as a compensation for, as a reward for, or award, if you will, for that arbitration. Of course, FIDE was not happy with this number and wanted to recover more. So going forward, Kirsan Ilginov promised that this appeal will not take place, and he promised this to me, to Karpov, he promised this to me, and he promised this to Ruth Herring. Nevertheless, after a couple of months or so, we found out that FIDE did appeal to Swiss Supreme Court to overrule decision by CAS. After hearings in Swiss Supreme Court, they found out that actually CAS, judges of the CAS, decided not to spend extra day hearing of arguments from both sides of the expenses they have. And they ruled this 35,000 Swiss francs award without those hearings. Therefore, Swiss court returned back this issue to CAS. And CAS did not schedule yet when it's going to happen, but it's pending. Based on this legal confidential situation, USCF decided to create subcommittee, subcommittee International Affairs, which consists of Ruth Herring, myself, and Frank Guadalupe, who became FIDE zonal president because Beatrice Marinella was on ticket, Kirsan's ticket, and she became FIDE vice president. So position of FIDE zonal president became vacant. Considering that this a confidential legal issue, we still need to be confidential. We don't know anything yet. I contacted 10 days ago by email, Louis O'Neill from White & Case, who still represents us. You met him last year, and he just said that dates are not scheduled, it's still pending, and he asked me to relay a message to you that White & Case still continues his services to USCF as its client pro bono. So USCF will not, under any circumstances, will have any liability to pay legal fees, and if, it's question mark, if CAS will grant more money than CARPA 2010, will feel obliged to cover these expenses as well for USCF. Of course, some of you might have questions about this, because I want to touch on another topic that also will probably have impact on all federations, including USCF. In past FIDE Presidential Board, Kirsan Lutjinov all of a sudden presented new ideas that he called modernization of chess, and he created a new FIDE Commission of Modernization that he chairs. There are no details available, but what was said by him in interviews afterwards, that he wants to change the rules of chess, laws of chess, time controls, etc. Some of you who follows ChessBase website might read open letter written by Grandmaster Kazimjanov. It was probably three, 4 weeks ago. And just recently, you may read comments by readers of this website. One of the ideas that brought by Kazimjanov, although open letter was written in very well English language, although I know that he doesn't speak that good, doesn't write that good, so it's obviously somebody wrote for him, which is nothing improper. However, suggestions are very doubtful, because main suggestion is to not to have any draws in chess, to eliminate all draws in the tournaments. So if we will play 4 or 5 hours of classic chess and game will finish a draw, then we should play rapid chess as a tie break. If we finish and draw, then we should play blitz. So the idea presented on the forum that, well, we need to play chess like tennis with definite winner, and then accordingly we need to calculate ratings based on the final results. So we want to attract more sponsors, we want to attract television, and everybody will be excited to see the blood. So basically our suggestion is to play ping pong on the chessboard. So this is one of the examples of modernization of chess, and there will be many more to offer. If I'm not mistaken, during these days, concurrently with our Congress here, this commission is supposed to meet in Moscow, in Russia, and elaborate on these ideas, which would be presented in October in upcoming FIDE Congress. Our delegation, I believe, will oppose such modern ideas by President and those who support these ideas. But I wanted just to share with you that he's serious about this. And in his interviews, he's obviously said that if you guys would like to play classical chess and you would like to find sponsors, so he related to elite players, so you can find by yourself. If your match for World Championship will cost $10,000, so that's what the value of your match. But we will play blitz, we will play rapid chess, we will be on television, and sponsors will throw billions of dollars to chess. So we will see what kind of rules will be presented. We will see what kind of modifications will be presented, and of course our team will try to be on the top of things and protect our sport. And last but not least, I would like to thank USCF board and delegates. We have full faith on our team, and our team obviously will consist of FIDE Vice President Beatriz Marinella, Zonal President Frank Guadalupe, myself, if I will be reappointed, and Ruth Herring, who was head of our delegation last year and will lead our delegation this year as well. If you have any questions, I'm open to answer. Yes.
What is our exposure to a possible award by the Court for Arbitration in Sport? What fraction of that is USCF on the hook for?
On what?
On the hook. The answer is zero. Karpov will pick up all expenses.
Yeah, well, USCF doesn't have any worries. Yes. Well, whatever promises were made last year by White and Case and Carpenter and still in place.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Before we get to Frank Guadalupe, Frank Guadalupe's report, the oldest player in the tournament today is Dan Myers, 89 years old, from Florida. Idaho, Sun Valley. I thought he was 89. I'm pretty sure he's like 92. Anyway, we have an update on Dan Myers.
If anyone has information on how to contact his family, please get with me. Dan was taken to the hospital last night, and they're trying to reach family members. So if anyone has information on how to contact any family of Dan Myers from Idaho, please let me know.
Frank Guadalupe, the FIDE zonal president from the United States, USCF.
Thank you. Good morning. As Barbara DeMaro will say, start your clocks. I guess not too many people were there 2 nights ago, huh? Well, my clock as zonal president started back in last year, October. Shortly after that, a couple days after that, I received an email asking me to send the names of our 2 women to participate at the World Championship. And that caught me by surprise because our zonal was back in 2009, so a year later I'm being asked this. And secondly, I was asked for 2 names, not 3, as we are authorized. So I found the reason why, and the reason was that we held the zonal in 2009 too late. It was held in October, and the rule is that it has to be held prior to the Continental Championships. And that was held in the month prior in Cali, Colombia, 1 through 7 September 09. So we're going to get penalized. I understand that we could have lost all the spots, but we didn't. Mr. Bill Kelleher, Mr. Jorge Vega, and FIDE officials worked out a deal and gave us 2 spots. So, in my opinion, we still lost 1. The decision had been made, so that said, I figured, well, what the heck? I might as well try to get that 3rd slot anyways. So I tried. I talked to Jorge Vega. I sent emails to FIDE, and I tried to get our 3rd spot again, to no avail. The 2 players who tied for 3rd place, Alisa Melakina and Irina Crush, Alisa on tie breaks. I contacted them, first Alisa, and said, hey, if I get this spot back, are you interested? And she thought about it, got back with me, says, well, I'm in school, so I cannot even, I would love to, but I can't. Of course, Irina Crush was, she welcomed the idea very much and told me, yeah, see what you can do for me. I made the case that Irina was the U.S. champion at the time, in 2010. That was not a zonal. And she was also the top player in the continent. So I made the case, and a couple of the people who I know made the case as well, to no avail. So we only have 2 slots. Those were, I submitted the names of Anna Setankish and Camila Vallescate, and they participated. About a month after that, and I'm just going chronologically what happened after I took over. A month after that, in December, I learned that there were titles for kids, for our youth participants of the North American Youth Chess Championships in 2009 and 2010. The 2009 event took place in Mazatlan, Mexico, and the 2010 took place in Canada. From 2009, we had 4 players who finished in 1st place. Those were in the under 16, Deepak Aaron, under 14, Stuart Finney, under 12, Caden Truff, and under 8, Winston Sang. Before the tournament started, all the players were told that if you win, you get the title of candidate master. And for whatever reason, there were some irregularities, I guess. They did not get the title in 2009. A year later, in Canada, we had a young lady by the name of Anna Matlin who finished 1st in her division, girls under 16. The same thing happened again. This time it was because the section only has 7 players, and the FIDE rule says it takes 8. The problem is that when our players go to these championships, they're told, and the announcements say, and I quote, the top player in section will receive the candidate master title. There are no if or buts or anything like that. So I immediately sent an email to FIDE back on 16 December trying to address this issue. Also, I contacted the Canadian zonal president, Alban, and he sent an email to FIDE as well, very upset about the whole situation. We received a report back from the Qualification Commission chairperson, Mr. Miko Markula, to no avail. He said, let's address this next year in Krakow, Poland. So that's what we intend to do. I also talked to Mr. Vega, and just before, during January, because I knew there was a presidential board meeting in February, to see if they could address that there. He said, no, that's not the place. This has to be done at the commission's meetings, which again is in Poland. So here we are still waiting for those titles for the kids, going back to almost 2 years ago. After that, I was involved in trying to get players for the Continental Championship. Our zonal, I sent the information to FIDE in December. On 5 January, we received notice from Mr. Vega that because of the World Cup early days, we had to hold the Continental Championship early. So that was scheduled for April, 19 to 25 April. That was at the same time when we were holding our U.S. Championship, our zonal. So what that did is that the players could not compete in both. Out of the U.S. Championship, we get five spots. Out of the Continental, the Continental can get 6. So our players like Alex Shabalov, who likes to go to the Continental, he was not able to. In spite of that, I was able to get 5 grandmasters to go to the Continental Championships. Originally was Grandmaster Sergey Kudrin, Alex Lenderman, Ildar Ibrahimov, Alex Tremolinsky, and George Friedel. Kudrin declined later on. He wanted to go, but he declined after. So we got Dmitry Gurevich to attend. We had a total of 10 participants, in addition to the 5 grandmasters. We had Eric Santeros, Alexander Bettanelli, Raven Sturt, Fabiola Grotta, and Gregory Markson. So those 10 went to the Continental Championships. The best place finisher there was Josh Friedel. He tied for 8th place. But again, only 6 spots for the were selected for the World Cup, so Josh didn't make it. Again, because of the conflict, we lost Alex Shabalov, who probably would have done very, very well. For the Continental Women's, we had no participants. I was disappointed. But looking back, I looked at the previous result for the last 2 years, and there were no participants either in 09 or 10, or 10 rather. So not sure what happens there with something we have to work on. The Pan American Youth, that was on 2nd through the 9th of July in Cali, Colombia. We only had 2 participants. In the under 12, it was Kimberly Ding from New Jersey, and she did very, very well. She tied for 1st, but finished 3rd on tie breaks. And under 14, we had from Texas, Claudia Munoz, and she tied for 6th rather, and she finished 8th on tie breaks. Those are the only 2 participants. There were a lot of State Department advisories on travel, so I'm sure that has something to do with it. The North American Youth Chess Championships, I'm sure Ms. Beatriz Marnello will talk about those, or it has been mentioned already. She was the organizer. And of course, Mike already mentioned the medalists at the World Youth. My next involvement was with the 2011 World Cup. I had to submit the names of those who were going to participate based on our son of the U.S. Championship. The top 5, those were Grandmasters Gada Kimsky, Yuri Schulman, Sang Shankland, Robert Hess, and Ray Robson. Out of the 5, the top one, Gada Kimsky, qualified based on rating. So he does not count against our 5 positions. He was replaced by, or not replaced, he still goes, of course, but that gave our 6th place finisher, Alexander Onishuk, a position in the team. And then Grandmaster Robert Hess decided that he couldn't go, so we replaced him with Alexander Ivanov. And of course that takes place in Cantina-Sisk on 26 August to 21 September. On the women's side, I submitted the names of the top 3 finishers, Anna Satonkish, Tatev Abrahaman, and Irina Kirch. Now in the case that maybe one of those players, perhaps Anna or Irina, get in by rating, I also submitted the name of the 4th place finisher, Camila Bayenskate, and 5th place, Sabina Fossier. During the championships in Cali, Colombia, the Continental meeting was held. I was not able to go. I have prior commitments. For one, I was organizing and directing the U.S. Senior Open, U.S. Junior Open. Those were very successful. In fact, between the Senior Open, Junior Open, and the not a Senior, not a Junior Open, I had 369 participants. One more player than we have here at the U.S. Open. So that was the good part. The bad part is that I did not go. There were some issues that needed to be addressed. They were proposing some changes on when the zonals could take place. The fact that the arbiter had to be from another country or federation, and a few items on the fees. I sent a letter to the president, the Continental President, Mr. Jorge Vega, and he told me that he considered that letter and made the decision to go in our favor. In fact, the official report of that meeting can be found on the website, and that's exactly what he says. I was not there. I'm sure there were other things going on, but I was pleased to know or find out that in fact he considered the input that I had as well as the input of Mr. Halban from Canada, who was not able to go either. Lastly, I have a few goals in mind as zonal president. Number one is to keep the players informed. To that end, I have talked to Pat Knight-Smith. As you know, or perhaps not, but most of you know, that in the website we have a matrix for the national events. And you click on that on the right side of the front page, and it takes you to all the events. And I want to do the same thing, and Pat is going to work with me on that for the international events. So just a little box on the right side, click here, international events, and then we will have there the links to all those other events. Because I found already that the biggest challenge is keeping the players informed, because many just don't know that these events are taking place. We're lucky that we have, on the scholastic side, we have Mr. Gary Nash, who keeps track of that very well and coordinates a lot of stuff. On the world team, we have John Donaldson, who also does the same thing. He took that under his wing. He's already working on next year's World Team Championship. He sent recently a very lengthy email, actually in two emails, reporting on the results and some thoughts about the World Team Championships. I'm sure the board members read that already. Also, one of my goals is to establish very good relationships with the Continental President, Mr. Vega. And to that end, I talk to him almost every week. In fact, I talked to him this week 3 times already. To members of the other countries in the continent, I talked to Alban, and I'm trying to develop other relationships there. And of course to FIDE as well. Also, I coordinate with USCF individuals who are involved in the same situations, such as with Ruth Herring on the board. We have meetings frequently. Michael Pedakowski. I talked to Chuck Lovingwood and Walter Brown in the office, as well as Mr. Bill Hall. Of course, I mentioned Gary Nash, John Donaldson, and a couple of last items. Let's see, the 2012 World Team is going to be in Istanbul on August 27th to September 10th. And like I said, John is already working on that. As we speak here, the World Junior and Junior Girls are taking place in India, 1 through 16 August. We have there Grandmaster Ray Robson from Florida and Aaron Lepak. They have 126 players there. Looks like Robson, based on rating, he has a shot. Unfortunately, on the girls' side, we don't have any players. Now, our best bet there would be Alisa Merakina, but she cannot go. And after that, it's hard to tell. They have 69 players on the girls' side, 7 are over 2,300. So other than Lisa, nobody else has a real shot. If you think of Abby Marshall, her FIDE rating is 2141, certainly a good player, but not at the level of those 2,300s. So that's all I have. Open to questions.
Just as a point of information, I just want the delegates to know that Hikaru Grandmaster Nakamura really wanted to play in the World Cup. He has a conflict with the Grand Slam finals, which he is playing in Bilbao. It's the top 6 players in the world, double round robin. He has accepted an invitation to that, and he cannot play the World Cup as a result. Just wanted to let you clarify that.
Thank you, Sam. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Yes.
Any, I noticed there was a FIDE amateur tournament in Chicago, 4th of July. Any word on that, and how well that went off?
I think the organizer is Saban here. Saban?
Yep, I'm here, Frank.
Are you the organizer for that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, want to say anything on it?
Quickly.
Call a question.
Got my turn.
No. I know.
Well, actually, Carl, can you stand up? Come on, Carl, stand up. We know this was self-serving. Come on. Carl won the 2011 Continental Amateurs Chess Championship. But because Carl's FIDE rating was too high, he's not going to represent the United States in the World Amateur. Instead, the 3rd place finisher, Jim Mundy, who will be representing us in Turkey later this year. So congratulations to Carl.
Thank you, Saban. Okay, if there are no questions, I turn it over to Beatrice, I believe.
I'd like to thank you, Frank, for all the work you've done on behalf of our players and the USCF. Thank you very much.
Beatrice Marinello, New York. FIDE Vice President.
And United States too.
New York and United States.
Okay. First of all, I would like to tell you that I'm very proud that I'm the first woman elected to the FIDE Presidential Board in chess history. As you know also, I became the first woman president of the U.S. Chess Federation back in 2003. I believe that we will have our second woman president of the U.S. Chess Federation, Ruth Herring. I think this is a big step for women in chess. Hopefully we can help to promote women in chess a lot more. One of the things that we're doing this year in St. Louis at the Hall of Fame Museum, and I don't know where it's Harold, we're inducting the first woman to the World Chess Hall of Fame, the world champion, the first world champion, Vera Menchik. So she will be inducted into the World Chess Hall of Fame. Hopefully there will be more women inducted. Well, we had a very controversial and difficult election last year, and personally, my philosophy is that if you don't like something, it's best to work from the inside. And I wanted to make clear something that I said at the meeting, at the International Affairs meeting, and I would like to share this with the delegates. FIDE is not equal to Kirsan. I mean, Kirsan is the president of FIDE. Of course, he's a very important person. He has been giving a lot to chess. But at the same time, we have a board, and many of those decisions, even decisions like the new proposals about the modernization of chess, they have to be passed by a board or even by a General Assembly. And we have a FIDE delegate here, Michael Khodorkovsky, and they're delegates from over 100 countries. So it's a democratic process. I believe in democracy, as probably all of you. And I think, you know, I would love to have the endorsement of the U.S. Chess Federation. Instead, they choose to endorse Mr. Cohn, who we will never see again in our life because he's not involved in chess. But I respect the choice. It was done, and well, obviously it didn't succeed. I have my views about these elections. I know a lot about it. I have been involved in FIDE, actively involved in FIDE for almost 15 years, in US politics for almost 20, so I know new on the things. And I can just tell you that it's always beneficial for the US to have people in positions of influence, and I'm one of them, and I'm here to serve you, to help you. So obviously I will not be working against the US. I will be helping the US, and I'm hoping that the next board will be agreeable to work with me and be a lot more receptive to basically work together with me. I believe that it's a pending legal issue that needs to be sorted out, but it's one of the consequences. I mean, if you litigate against someone, it's expected that that person may decide to try to recover some of the costs, and that is what's happening at the moment. But as Mr. Khodorkovsky pointed out, Karpov Inc. will be absorbing all the costs, so there is no expulsion for the U.S. Chess Federation, which I'm very happy to hear, and I think if we can now move on, I don't see any conflict why the U.S. Chess Federation and the new board will not be working with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. We look forward to working with you, and let's all give Beatrice another hand. She's really accomplished something.
Next on the agenda, do we have a question for Beatrice? Carol Jarecki?
Yes, you can call the question, but I have a comment, not necessarily a question for you. I find it a disadvantage that quite a few years ago, they changed his electoral process from voting for individuals in different positions on the board to voting for a slate. Many times that you like certain individuals, you find would be useful on the board, and that you don't really like on the slate. The disadvantage, I wish they would go back to the original voting after, but I'd like to see that.
Yes, Steve?
I have a question for Beatrice, and regarding these new rules for how to decide the end of the game, do you have a sense of how the rest of the presidential board will come down on these rules, and also where do you know, do you know enough about it in the comments?
Are we talking about the financial source?
And the must never under any circumstance in the draw.
Well, the question is about the new proposal. Well, Steve was asking about the new proposal from the new, it's a commission. In the last presidential board meeting in Alain, I attended the meeting in early June. The president of FIDE proposed to form this commission that is called the modernization of chess. And I believe that one of the proposals is to try not to have draws and just do some playoff with shorter time control. Is that your question, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. The commission is meeting this week. Actually, they started the meeting yesterday in Moscow, and today I personally don't agree with it. I don't think, I think draws are part of the game. I mean, unless it's a grandmaster draw, a short draw, like, you know, that would, I don't like that. I think they need to find a balance. They need to find a way to prevent the short draws. There have been some ideas. One of those has been to not to allow draws in less than 30 moves, but that's obviously useless because people can play 30 moves and make a draw anyway. And it's a short draw, but just with more moves. And the other proposal is to change the score of the game, to give 3 points to a win, 1 point to a draw, and 0 point for losing. That's the Danilov proposal. So there are other ideas that people are tossing around, but I don't think we're even close to come to an agreement. But I'm a chess player myself, so obviously I believe that draws are a natural outcome of the game. I mean, if two players play well or they reach a position that is even, obviously it's a draw. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it.
That question was by Steve Emmett. Steve has directed in the vicinity of 9,000 chess tournaments. How many is it, Steve?
Seems like
5,000? Okay, 5,000, I stand corrected. Any more questions for Beatrice? Thank you. We have about 10 more minutes. Now we're election of delegate appointed committees. Is that a Harold Winston project?
Only when you get to bylaws.
Alan Priest, Kentucky.
As the present chair of the audit committee, I would like to thank John Haskell of Florida and Michael R. Carr of Southern California for their service with me this year. For next year, I will not be gone from the audit committee if things sort out how I fear they may tomorrow. Since the Vice President of Finance is, I say that exaggerating, but the Vice President of Finance is an ex officio non-voting member of the audit committee anyway. So I am recommending to the delegates that they retain John Haskell from Florida and Michael R. Carr of Southern California on the audit committee, and add Mike Mulford, delegate from Georgia, to the audit committee. All three of these people meet the qualifications as determined in the bylaws. They are either CPAs, CMAs, or people with extensive public or private experience in financial statements, financial reporting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Call the question.
Any objection to calling the question? There is an objection.
The question was, which am I nominating these to be the chair? I am not nominating any of them to be the chair. They'll determine their own chair.
All in favor of that of those people on that committee, raise your badges. All opposed? Two opposing. None opposing? Abstentions? Motion passes. Bylaws Committee.
Nominate the following: Harold Winston, Illinois; Guy Hoffman, Wisconsin; Myra Lieberman, Arizona; Richard Kepke, Irvine, California; John McCrary, South Carolina; Gerald Larson, Alabama; Ernie Schlick, Virginia; Brian Mottershead, Massachusetts; Robert Brisante, Florida; Gary Kitts, Michigan; David Mailer, Maryland; Joe Lux, New Jersey; and Randy Huff of Southern California.
Any more? Oh, I guess we don't open nominations from the floor. No. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion for those people, raise your badges. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Elections Committee. Anyone from the Elections Committee? Myron Liebman, Arizona.
I propose the same elections committee, and the committee will determine its chair.
Want to read the name?
Motion is to re-elect the same list of members on the election committee. Any discussion? It's listed somewhere.
I think it's on page 48. If you look at page 48 to 49, the election committee report.
Roger.
Ken Ballou, Woody
48,
Harris.
49 in
Ernie
your
Schlick.
delegates call.
Yes.
All right, I'll read the names. Ken Ballou, Roger Gottschall, Woody Harris, and Ernie Schlick.
And Myron Lieberman. Myron Lieberman.
And Myron Lieberman. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your badges. All opposed? All